Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now, what brings me down the Spencer Arms tonight is a beer that made its way to the house yesterday. It was from a brewery that I only discovered through scrolling through Instagram with the pub sheddies and all that sort of like the breweries that I do, and I seen this beer with a game on it that I used to play as a youngster, and me and my brother love it. My brother's got the arcade game of it and everything, and that game was Outrun, and they've called this beer Checkpoint, and it is from the Elusive brewery, and I was blown. I thought, oh my god! So I ordered a mixed case and a couple of the extras of them, and in that mixed case was a beer that I tried last night, and it absolutely blew me away. I'm going to get it out of the fridge briefly, but then it's going straight back in the fridge because it needs to be cold. Okay, bear with me. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so here it is from the Elusive. Did I say exclusive? No, Elusive Brewing. It's called Oregon Trail. Okay. Now, this is a West Coast IPA coming in at 5.8%. Now, I had this last night and I honestly kid you not, it blew my socks off. And I sent a message, well, I put it on Instagram and it got a response of like, oh my word, this is well known as probably the best West Coast IPA that's come out from a British brewery. And then I've looked into it today. I can't believe that I've never sort of like heard of this before. So anyway, this is going back in the fridge and I'm going to talk to you about it very quickly. So this is, the beer name comes from the game, which was an education game from the 80s. It was basically like this is how Andy Parker, the actual brewer, has described it. It's about the gold rush getting the family from the Midwest to the West Coast. It's actually one of those sort of like retro games, like a bit like Outrun. So the can art and that, and the name of it, getting your family from the Midwest to the West Coast, against all odds basically, and it's a difficult game apparently, and so that's where the name come from. But the name was actually named by this little ale house that they brewed the beer for as a collab. So there was this ale house. I'll put the link in to a Spotify to a podcast that the Elusive Brewery actually told me about, where Andy describes all this better than what I will. So it's a great listen as well, just this interview with him. And basically, there was a pub. So it was originally a home brew. He had this recipe that he did as a home brew, and he brewed that beer. And then when this little micro pub wanted to start a beer club, and they wanted a beer that they could give to their customers of the beer club, they asked Andy at Elusive Brewery. Well, at the time, Andy, I'm not sure whether he'd actually formed that brewery to brew a beer for him. I think he had, because he was supplying sort of like beer to them, I think. But anyway, so they brewed this beer in about 2019 for the beer club, for this actual micro pub, and they named it that name, which I've just forgot. I've been talking about it all day. So is Oregon, Oregon. Yes, Oregon. Honestly, I've been so excited to do this that I'm just running away with myself. So they named it that, and they just thought it was going to be a one-off, just a one-off beer that they'd done. But then I think lockdown came, and they brewed it. And anyway, the story goes on. You'll have to listen to the man himself. The story goes on that they brewed it. It went mad. They didn't think they'd be able to carry on staying open in lockdown, but they did. And they got it. They brewed this, and it was sort of a lockdown, but it was almost like what was it, like an accidental core beer. They didn't mean it to be one of their best-selling beers. It just happened to be flying out the door, and the rest is history. I think they constantly have a tank full of it that just flies out. I think it contributes to about 50% of their sort of like sales. It's their core beer, it's their flagship beer basically. It's what keeps them going. that information I've given you is loosely based on what I've listened to today, but I will put the link in to this particular podcast where he does an interview. It's really worth a listen. It's really interesting. But anyway, it gives me a massive dilemma, this does, and this video is going to be probably longer than it should be, because I thought that I'd found the best West Coast IPA to come out of the UK, and it is this one. It is from Hackney Church Brewery. Now, you've probably seen me review this. If you're a regular to the channel, I have reviewed this, and this blew my socks off. This got a firm 10 out of 10, Speno 10 out of 10. This is coming in at 6% ABV. This is named after the founder, I think, of Hackney Church Brewery. He used to be called Superfly, basically, probably because, I don't know, his wildness or whatever. So this is named after that the founder, I think, of Hackney Church Brewery. I'll have to look back on it. I've not really looked at it. All I know is, I'm speaking at hyper speed because I'm really excited about this. All I know is this blew me away. So there's only one thing I can do. There's only one thing I can do. I've had this, and I know it's amazing. And I've had this, and I know it's amazing. This is going back in the fridge for a second. But the Oregon, I hope I'm saying this all right, I'm just overexcited, is well renowned as the best West Coast IPA in the country. I don't think there's anybody that's got a bad word to say about it. So this is probably a lot newer and not so, not so recognised maybe. But what I'm going to do is, I know how brilliant that is, that Oregon in there. I know how fantastic it is. So I've got to have this first. So I'm going to have this first. I'm going to get into this, and then I'm going to crack that open and get into that. And basically, I'm going to see what I think about the two beers. I know that they're both amazing. That one, I've got to say, that one that I had last night, the Oregon, was really up there with the West Coast bitterness and everything. So let's get them out. I've got two glasses, two lovely, clean glasses. I've got two, in my opinion, amazing beers. So let's crack open the Superfly first. I really, I came down here thinking to myself, I hope that I've got a Superfly in stock, and thankfully I had. And if I haven't, I do tend to get them in. I do not like to be without this beer. Now, straight away, I'm getting them lovely smells. Now, the one thing I have noticed, and what my mind told me about this, is that this one was probably got a little bit less of the bitterness and more of the sweetness in here. So it's an absolutely beautiful colour. I don't really want to get them both out because I don't want them to warm up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have some of this while it's freezing cold, because the Oregon, they do say served straight from the fridge, and I tell you what, it really needed to be ice cold, because it really ignited everything that was going on in there. It's a little bit like this. I've said before, I have this as a palate cleanser, the Indian tonic water. When any of this tonic water is warm, you just get that frothy type of non-carbonated sort of nothing. But when it's cold, you get that, oh yeah, beauty. You get that fizz, don't you? And basically, with the West Coast, I found I've never really had them as cold as that. So that one was outside in the carport last night, and so it's been bleming cold, isn't it? So it was probably hovering around that maybe 2 degrees, considering it's in a carport and it's in a cardboard box. And it blew me away. So this is really cold. The Superfly is really cold. Let's get that centre stage there. Now, I love Hackney Church Brewery. I love all their beers. I love this West Coast IPA. It's absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward to getting into this, but this is not a competition. I'm not going to put it as a competition because of both these breweries. I want to support them both. But now, the thing is as well, with the West Coast IPAs, everybody will bang on to me. So you like them piney taste. Now, I've got to admit, yes, I'm probably getting them piney flavours and piney taste, the piney smells and things like that. But it never really smashes me in the face. Oh, that's a piney taste. Whereas when I had that one last night, suddenly I'm like, oh my God, that's what that piney taste is. I sort of been looking for what I perceive piney to be, and I found it. And now I know it smashed me across the face. I know what I've been looking for. It's like some of the spices in the beers. Like once I got a really spicy beer, I thought, oh, that's where it is, and I can dial it up and down. So the pininess, yeah, I found it very difficult to sort of like separate that, but I knew it's there in all these West Coast. Anyway, so yeah, you've got that nice resinous sort of like smell from this. You can smell that there's like, some like dankiness in there. Which I love the dankiness that you can get when you really sort of like grabbing everything out the natural hops. I don't know whether this has got hop pellets in or the full leaf, but I've researched the other and that's all full leaf. So, but I like a nice danky West Coast. Anyway, so yeah, this has got that nice resinous smell. It's got probably a little bit of a citrusy smell, more of that orangey citrusy smell that I like, rather than that real harsh citrus. I can't really abide beers that are just like a citrus beer. Citrus hop for me, or any kind of citrus flavours from other hops that you'll get it from, needs to be back, drawn in. I prefer hops that give a citrus taste rather than a citra hop. Anyway, let's get into this. I've already done this, but I want to see how this is comparing. Cheers, everybody. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm not disappointed, Superfly. I am not disappointed. After having the other one last night, I was like, oh my God. Have I literally found a West Coast IPA better than my favourite West Coast IPA? I was worried. For it. Again, this has got that lovely pillowy softness. It's got that nice bite, that really good bitterness that's not astringent. It's not. It leaves that nice sticky type of taste on your mouth that's coming, that's probably coming from the resinous sort of like sticky taste that comes from the hops. If you're using hop leaf, I think you get more of that sticky resinousy type of taste from the hop than you do with the pellets. This is just something I've sort of like discovered through just learning about different beers and things. And when Andy talked today on this podcast that where he was interviewed, he talked about use whole hop leaves because you get more of that sort of resiny, sticky sort of taste, and that's what I love. I love that. I didn't really think it made that much difference. I sort of thought it might do, because when you rub the hops in your hands, you get all that nice oily stuff, and you can really get the flavour. So when you start pelleting them, I'm not sure whether it's just taking that bit of naturalness out of it. That's got a lovely orangey taste, very orange zesty, but also a nice smooth orangey taste, a very resinous taste. This probably isn't over danky, but I like the fact that all the hops that are in these beers that are working together, how they've been used at different stages and things to all come together. This is an absolutely fantastic West Coast IPA. There's no doubt about it. You can see the softness there in the head. There's an underlying malt taste, but I always find with these, The malt really is there, sort of just sat there in the background. Now this has got quite a smooth finish to it, rather than, it's a little bit dry, but it's got like more of a smooth finish to it than what I remember of that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put this down. It's cold in, I've purposely made, I've just put a bit of the heat on because it was bloody freezing in here. Oh, sorry, I don't normally swear on the channel, but that's no problem. We're only at 10 degrees, so that ain't going to warm up too bad. Let's get the game in. Let's get the game out. Let's get the game on. Here we are. So, on the back of this, it is Elusive Brewing creates beers with one eye on tradition and the other on taking things to the next level. Insert coin to play. We are playing. For me, I've got what I'm saying, the best West Coast IPA that I've had. But now, having this one has changed my opinion. That was last night, but I haven't A-B'd them together. So I'm going to crack this open and get this into a glass. But before I do, like I say, this is the game, this Oregon Trail. You can actually Google it and play it online. Now, I'm led to believe that that isn't just the graphics from the game. I think Andy's wife, Jane, I'm sure he said Jane, actually uses like a pixelation sort of like editor or something to create the can. So whether or not that is the actual game drop, I don't know. I've not looked for it. But I think then the background is all licensed, so it belongs to them. But the name was actually like come up with by that micro pub that they supplied the beer to as a collab. But then it's obviously stuck, and yeah, they have done that can labeling themselves based around the game. So I don't know what the game looks like or anything. I know that their Outrun one is the actual game. Well, it looks like it. They've probably designed it as well with little tweaks. But it's a fantastic can. We love crafted beers, don't we? I mean, the most important thing about a craft beer is what the beer is like inside the can. It's no good having a fancy label if the beer doesn't cut it, you know. But when you've got a great beer and a fancy label and a really great bit of artistry on there, it's absolutely amazing. So this ended up being, yes, they're like a home brew that turned into a collab, that's turned into a core beer, that's turned into the most sort of famous West Coast IPA in Britain. Another clean glass. Here we go. Right, Superfly. You're going to have to go and stand over here for a moment. Ooh, shall we? Let's keep him in shot. You know, we got to keep him in shot a little bit, right? Yeah. This is a 2-horse race here. So, crap this cat. Honestly, I've been on Desert Island Beers. I'm on Desert Island Beers on the first episode of the Ale and Audio podcast, which is out actually. I don't think this will come out before. It's out on Friday. Where are we? 11th. It'll be out on the 12th. So on the Friday. So you want to listen to that. It's a great podcast. And now what I've noticed straight away about this. Now both these glasses have had the Speno clean. Right? Well, I'm bouncing that because, get up there and look proud. Look proud. We did have some rising carbonation there. But anyway, let's just look at the difference in there. Very, very subtle differences, right? So this is a little bit darker than this. But it's still, you know, there's still sort of that same sort of colour. Now, I know that with the Oregon, they use extra pale Marisota malt, right? And they also use rye, and they use some crystal malts. But the crystal malts is only a small percentage. But the rye apparently helps to encourage to get the spicy resinous flavours from the hop. It's the rye in the beer, yeah, helps bring out the spice from the hops. And also the resinous sort of flavours. It's a lovely looking, like very, very slight, very slightly hazy. The Superfly. Hope I haven't been saying that all the while over my own overexcitement. Looks a little bit darker in colour. Still holding its head retention. Now you see, this has got a more danky smell. Yeah, this is got a more sweeter smell on the nose, and that's probably, they might be using a bit more. I don't really know what's in Superfly. I should have checked that out really, but I know it's banging. So this isn't about Superfly as such. This is more about this beer, but about, is it going to compete? So yeah, you got more of a sweetness smell in that. And this is more danky. I think there's about 5 hops working together. I think they've got Chinook. So they got the Chinook is in the 3 stages of the boil of the process. So it's probably like at the start, middle, and the end. Then they've got Citra towards the end of the boil, and the dry hopping with Simcoe, and I think a little bit Mosaic. I think there's 5 hops involved, but really playing and working all together to bring this beer together to give you all the flavours. And like I say, so the Chinook, the rye apparently is helping to bring out more of what the Chinook's giving. Now, what they have said is, because this is, well, I'm going to drink it and I'm going to tell you. So yeah, there is a citrus note to that, and there is to this as well. But it's not like Citra. It's the citrus that's coming out. There's no Citra hop in this, apart from at the end of the boil. So it's not really like massively citred because of that hop. It's just very subtle, because if it was a real Citra, then it's never really up my street personally. But that has got a more danky type of smell. Right, here we go. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for sticking with me. Oh, God. Wow. Yeah. Oh. I mean, good God. The actual bitter hit of that. Now, I know from listening today, this is around about 55, 60 IBUs, the international bitter units. So you're talking around about 60 IBUs. But I noticed last night, and I spoke to Crumbly Beard. He messaged me based on my story I put about this. Told me that this is basically a well-known, superb, probably one of the best West Coast, whatever we talked about. And I described it to him, and I wish I'd have wrote that down, because of the way I described it, it just sounded exactly as it was. But what I noticed, the bitterness and the pininess. Now, I've really got the pine now. I understand the pine. It really has ignited, woke me up. I think probably because a lot of the other West Coast IPAs that I've had have never really woke me up in that pine. It's probably been a little bit like subtle in that, and I needed to be like, I don't know, a pine addict to be able to pick it out. Citra, oh God, I can pick that out all day long. But the piney flavours, but this, it's got that really piney hit, and it's got them resonance flavours in there. This sticky, it's like, it is really oily, sort of like in your mouth, if you know what I mean. It is really coated. Now, that's what that does as well. The Superfly does exactly that as well. What this does is this kicks you with a bit more bitterness to that, and it's got a dryness about it. But do you know what? As I stand here talking to you, that dryness and that bitterness and the actual finish of this beer with that nice sort of like sticky, oily type of lubricant taste is just hanging and hanging and hanging, and it's not going nowhere. However, I noticed with this beer that it took me about an hour to drink it last night, because I had it as one beer and I was watching like the telly with Janie. We were sat chilling, and And once I'd left it alone and it had warmed up a little bit, it just didn't. It didn't help it out at all. It doesn't want to be left. It's want to be drank cold. It's got that real zingy, orangey, real piney bitterness. But then it's got like a nice sort of like fruity sort of like mixture with it as well. And then you've got them malts, that the sweetness. I think I said to Crumbly, like to Tom, the sweetness are just fighting to come through. Like, let me have a piece of the action. I'm there. So, I'm not saying the crystal malts, there's a small amount of crystal malts in here. And I'm not saying that they're coming through with all that sort of like real toffee caramelly flavour, but they're definitely there. They're just sort of like really hidden behind all this big danky, hop, piney, bitter smash. But the bitterness is so beautiful. It is, because one of the things I would say about a West Coast IPA, for me, it wants to have that real suck your cheeks in bitterness, but it don't want to be astringent. It don't want to be horrible. It doesn't want to be like, a horrible bitterness. And one of the questions that they ask is, how do you get that level of bitterness without it being basically offensive, horrible? And Andy's answer was flex. So I thought, flex, what's that? So I searched it, and it's basically a hop extract purely for bitterness, for bittering. So it seems to me as if he's getting some of probably if he's using the Chinook, however it's supposed to be said, this is Spencerthain. He's probably using some of that in the early edition. Then there's 3 editions of that hop going in. So he's probably getting some bitterness out of that, but not sucking all the bitterness out of it, because I think that's a good bittering hop anyway, to make it all astringent and horrible. So he's using flex, which is purely for bittering, to get the IBUs to probably 55, 60, where this is really like hitting you with the bitterness, but it's not astringent. It's so refreshing, really, to be quite honest with you. It is. It's really it has got the malts now. You can, but it's right on the back. It's almost like as it goes down, the sweetness of them malts just coats as it goes down, and the oily feel of the hops is fantastic. Absolutely. If that rye is sucking out and bringing some of that like oils, if you're actually getting some of that oiliness, I'm not even sure what rye is, to be honest with you. Is it like I don't know. I'm not going to say. I've heard of rye, but I've not even researched it. But all I know, it's there to bring out, to bring out the resonance flavors and to bring out the hops, to bring out extra spice and things from the hops. But as you like. As you swirl it around your mouth, you're getting more and more of them malts coming through. So, time to pick up the 2 beers. Now we're at the same. Now this is warmed up a little bit. We've got to give that. So here we go. Colour wise, similar. This one a little bit darker. Maybe this has got a little bit more of them caramelly type of malts in, because it is a bit sweeter. So here we go. So on the nose, this one, sweeter, still very hard to pick out the individuals, but orangey. I am picking up more of the maltiness from that. Oh, I'm left-handed here. Look, similar, pillowy. Look, quality beers. They're like brothers, isn't they? I mean, the more and more I look at them, the more and more I think they're very close in colour. Just a little bit darker, this one. Bit more danky smell out of that. Similar smells, but dankier. This one a little bit more sweeter in the orange sort of smell. So, going back to the Superfly. Yeah. A lovely bitterness, not astringent, very nice. There's a resinous there, sweetness. Probably the malts are just coming through a little bit more on this, but a very lovely, beautiful bitterness. Absolutely, well, absolutely non-offensive at all. Absolute quality. So, okay, to the Oregon, 5.8, 6%, you know, give me a break. Oh, a lot more punchier in the hops, definitely. More hop forward, more malt. Well, they're both hop forward, but more of the hops and a little bit more of the malts through the hops. But yeah, absolutely lovely still. But this has got a crazy pineness to it. I've got it. I've got the pineness, the pine bitterness, the pine. Oh, the bitterness in this is really. The pine is massive in this. And when they say a West Coast IPA, I remember Jimbo at Ale and Audio says to me when I said West Coast is one of my favourite styles of beer. This was before I was thinking about having to drink it, say, if I had to drink it for the rest of my life type of thing. When I'd done the Desert Island beers, I picked my favourite style of beer as lager because I've really enjoyed all the lagers this year. And if I was out on a summer's day, I'd probably rather drink 10 bottles of lager than 10 cans of West Coast, if you know what I mean. Even though these are so drinkable. But massive, massive pine. I would say this is like, and I'm not fantastically knowledgeable about this, but this is like an old school West Coast IPA, and this is more of a modern West Coast IPA. So this is probably like a little sweeter. This is a bit dankier. Bitter levels, I don't know whether the Hackney Church tells you about the bitterness levels. Let's have a look. So, what we got here. Enjoy responsibly. Well. Right, here we go. Here we go. So, let's actually read these cans now. I've not read the... I'm telling you, I read this last night, but I can't remember it. So this is a classically styled West Coast IPA. Simcoe, Chinook, and Columbus hops combine. So if I'm right, it's a real American. It's a real American hops there. Combined to deliver a resinous profile with a citrus undertone. Now, yes, the citrus undertone. That's why. I don't mind citrus hops. I don't mind Citra in any beer as long as it is just keeping itself a little bit out of the way. It's so powerful. I'll be honest with you. I don't really understand why. I mean, I don't personally. For me, I don't understand why you'd want to do a citrus single hop beer. It's just you might as well just suck a lemon, like raw. Right. So anyway, deliver a resinous product with a citrus undertone. The bitterness helps to balance the light caramel of the malts. And it is light, but it is there. Originally brewed in collaboration with our friends at the West Street Ale House in Fareham. So yes, it was originally brewed for the beer club at the West Street Ale House in Fareham. And it says serve in your favourite glass straight from the fridge. Okay, now what I've just said to you now is this is like an old school West Coast IPA. This is a classically styled West Coast, and I said this one is more like a more, what did I say? Like I'm quoting the can now because I've read it a minute ago. I've seen it. It's more of a modern style, more of an, you know, a modern style. I don't know what I said, but the words. And when I read this, I thought, yes, there we go. So a modern West Coast IPA, easy but assertive bitterness provides the perfect resting place for layers of pine and tropical fruits to conjure dreams of the California sunset. Right, I'm going to place both of them together, you know, because as far as I'm concerned, being a chippy, see now, I'm getting some of them nice sweet malts, some nice malts there with that. The malts are there with this one, not as much as that, but then the modern West Coast will be like that. I gave the Superfly West Coast IPA a Spenno 10 out of 10. I ordered one for my friend and I told him, you need to try this. This is a style of beer that he hasn't tried and I wanted him to try it. And I said, this is the best example of a West Coast IPA you're ever going to have. Pass your lips. I've had lots of West Coast IPAs. I love the style. The Superfly from Hackney Church Brewery is the best one that I'd ever had until I came across Elusive Brewery and drank this Oregon. Put the coin into play. Then I knew I was in trouble because my favourite one had a bit of competition. But I don't think I've got a problem here. I think what I've got is I've got the dad who's been brewing this old school method. Oh, although the bitterness in that is quite wicked compared to this, I must admit, it's much more bitter. But then we've got the son who's gone, do you know what, Dad? I'm just going to do a modern take on it and whatever. But I am going to say, from my point of view, I'm not going to turn around and say, that blows this out of the water or anything like that. What I'm going to say is these are two different type of West Coast IPAs. You've got a real classic, really old school, real like proper back of the garage brewing a proper old school West Coast IPA, which originally was a recipe from a home brewer who's now a master brewer with the Elusive Brewery. And then you've got the Hackney Church modern West Coast IPA. Both in the UK, both fantastic. I mean, I've only just had one of their beers and I can't wait to. I've got about 13 of them. I can't wait to try the others. But all I'm going to say is, for me, the Superfly remains with its 10 out of 10. It stays there. It's not been knocked off the podium. Go over there, so have a rest. But this one comes in with a shouting Spenno 10 out of 10. Absolutely unbelievable, fantastic, but not knocking this off the podium. It is a joint first position for me. They're just different takes on the West Coast. This one ain't better than this one, and this one ain't better than this one. This one, for me, I will say, yes, I'm going to say that is what a West Coast IPA is like. Oh, geez, that is like really what a West Coast IPA would be when it was invented and really mastered, you know. And this is a West Coast IPA that is just turning things a little bit modern, but still authentic and still there and still doing everything that it should be doing. So for that, these two are brothers with different mothers. But how amazing is it that we've got these breweries in the UK doing these fantastic brews, like with amazing labels, that we display in our pub sheds or pub garages, whatever we've got. And yeah, so I'm up to 40 minutes on this video, and I've still got a bit of beer left, and I've loved doing this. I've loved doing this. I didn't want to AB it at all, but I'm just so thankful that my beloved Hackney Church Brewery, which I love Hackney Church Brewery, is still giving me fantastic beer. And the Elusive brewery, yeah, is kicking it old school. That is, I've got to say, that is a danky, piney, bitter, it's a smashable beer. It took me too long to drink this, because if I wasn't talking to you lovely people and trying to explain this beer and give you a little bit of history in it, even though I've probably completely messed that up, you need to listen to Andy himself. Honest to God, you know, it is absolutely fantastic. If you are a fan of West Coast IPAs, you need to go to their website and order the beers. And I'll tell you something as well. Oh my God, I've ordered some beer from another brewery about a week or so ago, probably nearly 2 weeks ago. It's still not here. I ordered the beers from these. Blimey, no, I think it was there in just over a day, because I thought, oh great, my beers arrived from that other brewery. But no, it was these. So the delivery, the website's easy, ordering's easy, the delivery is super fast, and the beer, I've had one beer out of that case, and it is absolutely took me on a complete and utter journey. And when I say a journey, I mean the beer, the discovery of the brewery, the friendliness of the brewery, that because I've messaged them back and forth, and that's how I discovered the podcast with Andy's interview, because they got back to me and told me to listen to that. That'll give me a lot of information. The passion of this brewery and Hackney Church bringing these beers to us. So dry January, cut down January. That's about what we need to do, because the beer industry, the pubs, the beer, the breweries and everything, they need us. So if we stop drinking in January, and it's worldwide as well, we don't want God, you imagine a month without revenue for some of these microbreweries could kill them, and we don't want that. It's the most depressing month of the year. Look how happy I am doing this. It's like, why would I want to not do it? Why would I not want to have a beer? You know, it's either this or watch The Traitors. So I'll let Janie do that while I come down here and drink beer. Happy days. Right, anyway, waffling on big time. Thank you so much for watching this. Please check out both these breweries. They're both fantastic at delivering beer. I know Hackney Church Brewery have got some new beers coming out. I think they've got a Kolsch lager, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it's a lager that's brewed with ale, like top fermented top fermented ale yeast, but then lagered at colder temperatures. It's a really interesting style of beer that I've not actually had yet, I don't think. I think they're bringing out a Vienna lager, I think, which I really like. Keep tuned in, and I'll be bringing you some more Spenno waffle. 2 beers at nearly 6%. Like I say, give me a break. Soon. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much for the subscribers. And a big shout out to the new subscriber over in Belfast who liked my Guinness video. Much love to everybody. Take care in this cold weather. Spenno.